Welcome to Biz Coach and Coffee, where our guests are experts, entrepreneurs, coaches, and consultants that share tips, strategies, and tactics to help small business entrepreneurs grow their business for long-term success. Please welcome your host, Biz Coach Steve Feld. Hello and welcome. I'm Biz Coach Steve Feld, and my goal is to stop business owners from suffering entrepreneurial depression and start making running their businesses much easier. Business owners and entrepreneurs hire me to crack multiple 6 and even 7 figures without burning themselves out. Today, we have another wonderful guest for you. We have Mitchell Levy. Now, Mitchell, he's part of the Global Credibility Expert. That's what he is. He's a 2-time TEDx speaker, an international best-selling author with over 60 books, and executive coach at Marshall Goldsmith's 100 Coaches. Please welcome Mitchell.
Steve, good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Well, great to have you. So first question I always say, we gave you a little teeny snapshot on the intro, but tell us a little bit more about yourself. How did you start your journey into coaching?
I think I've been helping people from a coaching or being of service to others for quite some time. It was something I did when I was working in the corporate world. I left the corporate world in 1997. I was working for Sun Microsystems at the time. And so that was part of it as I flew around the world as a financial systems guy and helped train people inside the company on how to use different systems that I was helping to roll out for the company. And so that was a coaching component to it. And then when I started my own businesses, I ended up sitting on the board of a NASDAQ company. So that is executive coaching at a high end. I ran 4 different CEO networking groups. So over 500 CEOs I ended up doing executive coaching with. And I think up until being part of the Marshall Goldsmith group, I actually never I never wore the title. It was just, to me, coaching is part of sort of like breathing and drinking and eating. It's like part of human nature. If you're credible, you're a servant leader. If you're a servant leader, you're there to serve. Sometimes serving is being coachable yourself. Other times, when you're of service to others, it's coaching others. And so, I just think it's part of business, it's part of life.
Oh, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. It just comes natural to me. It's something I've done my whole life and I enjoy it. And I just like seeing business owners get those results and seeing them achieve their goals and dreams. So I totally get it. Now, who are your typical clients nowadays?
There are 2 different folks. Leaders who are living their values and making a difference. And so that as at the individual leadership level, they're not living out loud as much as they can, or a great example might be someone who has done a lot in their life. They've got all these accomplishments in place, but they no longer have fulfillment. That's a great prospect for me. At the corporate level, it is businesses wanting to increase conversions with operational credibility. And so it's bundling in the types of things that mom and grandma told you when you were young, how to be nice to people, how to be of service, how the intent and commitment to do the right things, how to be likable. There are 10 values associated with credibility. And what happens is when you and your employees actually utilize those 10 values and you're living them out loud, guess what happens? Everything increases for the better.
I know you're founder of Credibility Nation. You were talking about it. How did you come to that? Like, let's build this Credibility Nation.
I thought my business purpose in life, life purpose. So get married, have kids, had a kid. He's 24. He's doing great. Happily married 33 years. Been in Silicon Valley for 35 years. I've started 20 companies. For 22 years, we've taken a month and gone to Europe for a month and had friends and family come visit. I thought that was life purpose. when I ended up doing, after my first TEDx, I started thinking about the world more on a idea worth sharing versus a marketing idea worth sharing. That caused me to change up. One of the companies I have is a book publishing company. We've published over 750 books. I started realizing towards the end of 2017, I wanted to change the business model. I no longer liked the clients we were attracting. So we became a done-for-you publishing company. 2018, built a writing school, picked up 10 clients. 2019, changed the brand to Global Credibility Expert. And 2 months later, I had a Napoleon Hill wake-up call. I just thought I had to interview 500 thought leaders on credibility. And I thought I was going to do that, Steve, just so I'd have a book, so I'd be credible to call myself that name. I ended up recognizing, and this is what primarily came out of it, were all of these marketing cookie cutter approaches we all apply. I realized the importance of ignoring them. I realized the importance of sort of not letting them come into my life. And the thing that scared me the most or gave me the most concern is that 98% of the thought leaders I spoke with, 98% could not articulate their purpose in the average human attention span, which is less than 8.25 seconds. 98% of people cannot articulate who they served, how they served them in less than 8 seconds. And that sort of was that wake-up call for me, because it turns out I actually have a superpower of helping people do that.
Well, great. Let's get into that superpower here in just a moment. We're going to take a quick break for a word from our sponsor. We'll be right back with Mitchell.
This episode is sponsored by Spotlight Books. Get your expert book completed in 30 days. If you don't have an expert lead magnet book about you and how you serve your market, then visit www.spotlight-books.com. Link is also in the show notes. Put a spotlight on your expertise.
And we're back. We're talking about Credibility Nation, and you were talking about your superpower. So let's get into that. What is your superpower?
Well, I've got a couple. So I'll share one: building systems, being able to run a publishing company. And so imagine, listen, if you're working on my team, I walk in one day and I go, you know what, guys, we're going to interview 500 people while we still run the company over the next year. And we're going to share that content on 2 or 3 different podcasts. That meeting didn't go across. A lot of scared people in the room. So building systems. The first one that I recognized was pulling the genius out of somebody's head. And so when we ghostwrite or co-create books with somebody, that's what I do. What came out of the interviews was the ability to allow people to help people articulate their purpose in less than 10 words. And so Steve, what it turns out to be when you can do this, it turns out to be the words that are the frequency in which you exist, the frequency of how you show up in the world. And it allows, I call it a CPOP, your customer point of possibilities. One of the cool things, I actually have this now in a course that is less than an hour long.
Wow.
And so for those people, I know it's super cool, by the way.
Really cool.
Now, I'm going to say, so there's a couple of things so let me say that's a superpower, when I could sit with somebody and I could feel their energy aligned with the words that we share. The phone call I just got off the phone with, actually Zoom call, I guess we don't do phone stuff anymore, was a professor who teaches marketing at a graduate level. Because he was so up to speed, he didn't think he would learn anything. We spent about 4 minutes on his side business, and I gave him something, his CPOP, and he goes, "Oh, that's really interesting." He goes, "That does work for me." And I said, "Now, do you realize when you wake up in the morning and you start looking at all of your websites and how you talk about yourself, that you're going to have to change it all?"
Yeah.
And he goes, "Oh, right." Well, because if you have this focus on really who you serve, so who is it? The best way to think about this, Steve, is how could you articulate the playground you play in?
Right.
Right. So for me, you and me, we overlap a lot in businesses increasing conversions with operational credibility. And so that's any business that wants to increase either product development, how do you create products better, marketing, how to generate better leads, the leads themselves, how do you convert them in sales, the employees, how do you make sure that you have higher retention, for customers, how do you make sure they want to talk about your products. Each one of the functional areas in which we run business have areas of conversion. And you just sprinkle a little bit of credibility powder or seed or juice or whatever it might be on it, and you increase conversions, you increase momentum in which the company is operating.
You also mentioned, well, you've definitely owned a few more companies than I have. I know they're not all rainbows and, unicorns jumping over them in the glitter shower. But tell us about one of those businesses that had that challenge and you had to overcome it.
So for me, when I meet somebody I really like, what'll happen, and we look at each other and say, hey, let's do a business together, or let's try something together. What often happens is we will look at each other, we'll talk about what we need to do, and that doesn't become real till we get our first prospect together or our first client together. Then we do the project. And because what happens when you're actually in operational form with somebody, stuff's going to hit the fan. And when it does, you want to make sure that the partner you've chosen will say the same things when the door is closed, when you're not in the room, than when you're in the room. Only one time did I actually choose. Most of the time, I feel like I have a good judgment of character, but there was one time where I didn't like what was said behind closed doors. And so normally what happens is we look each other, we shake hands, we agree what we're going to do. After we have our first client together, when we like working together, then we'll do the contracts. Because otherwise, people spend so much time on all this planning for the future that may not come. So I'd rather live in the present, do things. So that particular example, we didn't take it to the next step.
It happened. I wish I could say all partnerships worked out great, but it was one of those. I've been down that road before. We did the agreements, and thank God we did, ahead of time, but we knocked them out in a weekend, a Saturday, and we had the lawyer put it legally on Monday. And you know what? By Friday, the company was over.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's possible. I think the good news is we didn't have an issue, right? Yeah. So potentially the advice of not having contracts may not work for everyone. But for me, it's sort of like, okay, let's grab a client. We'll be real when we have our first client, and then we'll decide if we want to continue. And I guess there's always things that could go wrong there, but for me, I find that a much what's the right word? I find that a whole lot more fun to work on, because otherwise you're planning and spending all this time doing stuff that's not in reality.
Well, we always give something away to our listeners to help them in their business or in their lives. What do you have to offer to our listeners?
One of the communities we have is called Credibility Nation. And one of the gifts that we share with the members of Credibility Nation is every week we send them a micro-learning lesson. So something between 2 to 3 minutes long. So one of my team members and I, we went through the 54 micro lessons that we created, and we picked the top 5, and we put them into a single PDF document, and we'd like to share that with you. And so if you go and look at the link, it is our, one of our 5 favorite, or 5 of our 54 favorites. So the top 10% of our micro learning lessons from a number of different experts. And it's quick to consume and very powerful stuff.
Oh, nice. So yeah, we will have the link for that in the show notes. So please take advantage of his offer. I know we're winding down on time. Any final words for our listeners?
I would encourage you to really give consideration of who you serve and how you go about serving. And if you could then condense it into what we do with a CPOP, if you can then condense it into less than 10 words, what ends up happening is you have a compass yourself for making better decisions. You have a compass for acting in a better way. And more appropriately, those people who know you you make it easier for them to recommend you. And that's really, if you got friends, they want to help you. And so many times we make it difficult for our friends to help you. So this is a way you can make it easier for your friends to actually support you as well.
Oh, nice. So make sure you take advantage of his offer. The link is in the show notes. Mitchell, thank you so much for being our guest today.
Steve, nice to spend time with you. Thanks. I look forward to our next conversation.
Absolutely. Well, folks, if you like Mitchell and all of our other experts, make sure that you like and subscribe to this channel so you don't miss out on some of those great conversations and great gifts.
Oh, can I add one thing?
Sure.
One of the words that came out of the interviews was cred dust. Cred dust is that magic that happens when you share other people's ideas, thoughts, and actions. So, take the aha message that were you most excited about, comment, and then spread some of Steve's cred dust.
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a great idea. So spread that cred dust around. Excellent. Well, folks, this is Biz Coach Steve Feld wishing you and your business much success.
We hope you enjoyed today's topic. If you'd like to discuss how you can apply these strategies in your business, let us know. This episode is sponsored by Spotlight Books. Get your own expert book written about you in 30 days. Set yourself apart from the competition. Make sure you like and subscribe to this channel. Also, feel free to give us your comments. We look forward to hearing from you on Biz Coach and Coffee.